All right, what's up, everybody? So we're gonna do a little something different today. Every now and then, I get a question in my DMs or I see one on the internet, and I think, this is a good enough question for me to share it with everybody. I feel like everybody should know this because just political spin and people general misunderstanding of things is exactly how we ended up with Trump. So let's get to the question. So this person said, I voted for Trump 3 times and I gladly do so again. First of all, she already delusional. That said, I have a sincere question about something I'm genuinely trying to understand. If the US is energy independent, why are gas prices spiking again? They're getting close to the highs we saw under Biden. I know tensions with Iran are playing a role right now, but I thought energy independence was supposed to shield us from these kinds of swings. Can someone explain what's driving this? I'm not here to criticize Trump, just looking for a clear explanation. Thanks. All right, it's a couple different pieces to this answer, so let's get to it. First of all, oil and gas are global commodities. That means there's a global market for it. If oil companies was able to sell oil in Europe for $90, but only $60 in the United States, they're just gonna ship the oil to Europe. I mean, the price of any commodity is what somebody is willing to pay for it. If they paying $90 for it in Europe, that's the price of oil. I mean, these oil execs, they not, government organizations or just patriots that care about, US citizens having low cost energy. They corporations. A corporation is looking to make the most amount of profit. So the second part of this question I want to address is the third paragraph. If the US is energy independent, why are gas prices spiking again? And then if you go down, she understands there's tension with Iran, but she thought the US is supposed to be energy independent. All right, short answer to that question, energy independence is not what most people think it is. It's not what it sounds like. In fact, regardless of how much oil the US pull out of the ground, it's impossible for the US to be energy independent in a way that most people actually think of the term. Let me explain. All right, so to understand this, you have to know it's two major types of crude oil. You have light sweet crude oil. That's the oil that's found naturally in the United States. When Trump is saying, drill, baby, drill, he's talking about that light sweet crude oil. Then you have heavy sour crude oil. That oil is found in Venezuela, all throughout the Middle East, and actually in Canada too. That's actually where the United States get most of its heavy sour crude oil. All U.S. oil facilities is meant to handle and refine heavy sour crude oil. That means that we can't even do anything with the oil that we get out of the ground in the United States except export it to other countries that actually can use it. The reason why I think is, US oil refineries were already set up and, up and running before we started getting oil out of the ground. Oil regulations in the United States can change and stuff like that. So they're already set up to just handle heavy sour crude oil. And by the way, it's not easy for US oil facilities to just start refining light sweet crude oil. It's not like they could just click a button or it's just some easy fix. It would take billions of dollars and probably a decade. Basically, it's not going to happen. It would be no different from a family that, had a grain farm and they technically produced enough grain that a family of their size could survive on. But let's say in this example, everybody in that family was allergic to the grain that came out of the ground, right? That means that they can trade all of the grain that they get out of the ground, and still be able to claim that they're food independent if they technically, ship out more grain than they actually take in of other food. Even if, they paying more for the food that they importing, right? Or even if they can't actually consume the food that they, actually grow in the ground. So and I think that the average person would consider food independent being able to grow and consume the food that you actually produce. Politicians understand this concept. They understand when Trump is talking about being energy independent, it's a disingenuous talking point. It's just political spin that I talk about. And that's why I felt it was important to actually say this because, a lot of people wondering like, if we are energy independent, why are these prices going up?